everybody. Welcome to Perpetual Motion podcast, where curiosity meets career excellence. I'm Dr. Mo Anderson, and I invite you to join me on a journey of personal growth. We dive into inspiring and often hilarious conversations with global experts in each weekly episode. From communication mastery to wise investments, we have got you covered. My guest today, Conor Cunneen, aka Irishman Speaks, and you'll find out why when you hear him. Conor has been named Humorous Speaker of the Year in his hometown of Chicago. He is an in-demand business speaker to associations, corporations, and healthcare, helping his clients improve people, performance, and productivity with a smile. Today, we're discussing how incorporating humor into your presentations boosts your brand and also helps with employee morale and retention. If you've been told you're just not that funny, keep listening and learn key strategies to tickle anyone's funny bone.
You can't say Dr. Mo ain't tell ya that fear magnifies the consequences of failure. What are you scared of? Why are you afraid? I'd rather live like I'm dying than live to die.
Welcome, Conor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mo. Love the introduction. Really good and very, very concise and accurate. Thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
You are very welcome coming to us all the way from the Chi in the Midwest. I was just there visiting with family. It is quite one of my favorite places. I'm curious as to how you came to be there. I believe you're an immigrant, correct?
I am indeed. I actually tell people, Dr. Mo, that I've been working on my Chicago accent now for 26 years. Nailed it almost, yeah.
I almost got it. Just
almost
really.
Yeah.
I had to remind myself that you're an Irishman when you know.
Right. Yeah. So, but obviously the Irish brogue is an advantage for me in my business because in the speaking business, you want to differentiate yourself a little bit.
Sure.
Ireland has a really good brand image and an image of affability and friendliness, etc., which I hope I convey and live. And as a result of that, I then went with the brand Irishman Speaks. And so it's Conor Cunneen, Irishman Speaks.
Got it. It works. You say, I know you're a funny guy. I've checked you out online and we've had a conversation before, but you know, a lot of people feel like, well, I'm just not that funny. They've been criticized, accused, of just being boring or whatever. But you say you don't have to be funny to be funny. Please explain that.
That is something I absolutely, totally believe, Dr. Mo. My mission as a keynote speaker and facilitator is to improve people, performance, and productivity with a smile. So what I do is I provide good content and then I provide humorous little anecdotes or quips or comments within that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the humorous anecdotes that I present are not ones that I have created. A lot of the humor that gets people laughing is not humor that I've created. It's basically humor that I have captured last week, previous week, last year, last month kind of thing. And what I say to people is that you don't have to be funny to be funny. What you need to do is to pay attention to the funny little things that happen around you, the stories you were told that made you laugh, the quips that you made that made someone else laugh, etc. Capture those, and sometimes, somewhere, you will be able to drop those into your presentation. So that basically is my core message. You got to have good content. You got to have solid material. But one of the ways to get people to remember it better and to connect better with your audience is by putting a smile in their face.
Absolutely. And I like that you lead with and emphasize content. I'm a speaker coach and I'm working with someone on an upcoming TEDx speech. And she started out with the jokes. And I'm like, no, first we need good content, and like you said, it may come from the anecdotes or within the storytelling, but you don't start your presentation preparation with what jokes am I going to tell? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to inform and educate people. So that's really key. And I like the way you put it. Well, let's talk about techniques. Again, a lot of people, they want to do this. They see other people do it, but they're just not quite sure it's for them. what are some key techniques you teach in your workshops for consistently creating relevant humor that doesn't distract from your core message? And you kind of alluded to it in the previous question, but if you could be more specific about techniques that you use.
Right. The core technique I use is I try to understand the audience and understand their pain points. And if you can understand the audience, understand their pain points, empathize with them, and possibly then put in some little humor to show that you understand what they're feeling and going through. I'll give you a quick example. I know you're in the healthcare field in general, so you're probably aware of the software called Epic, which is what most healthcare organizations are now using. I was doing an event with a major healthcare group here in the Chicagoland area a couple of years ago, and they had just implemented the Epic software. And they were having, like every other organization that I think has it, was having major problems with it. It was driving their team of healthcare professionals nuts. I learned this before I started my presentation because I do in-depth commentary and questions with my event planner, the person who brought me in. So I'm there talking to the nurses and the healthcare professionals about all of the various issues that you have got. And I also understand you've got a number of epic challenges in your life. Okay. So I just took the pain that they had, referenced it slightly differently, got a really good reaction to it. So that the two things actually at that point of the presentation. One is to put a smile in their face, but it also made them realize, hey, this guy has actually spent a bit of time trying to understand our problems and he knows the frustrations that we are going through. So one of the first things you need to do is to be able to understand your audience, empathize with them, find their pain points and address the pain points, offer solutions to them. But often you can actually bring a little bit of humor about those pain points to their presentation. I do have another concept I think we'll speak about later on, go into more detail to help you to answer this question as well.
Okay. And would you define, I'm familiar with pain points as a term we use in business a lot, but just on the chance someone's not familiar with that term, would you define what a pain point is?
The pain point is what you are talking to your colleagues at the water cooler about what drives you crazy. The pain points are what you say to your spouse or your friends when you're at having a cup of coffee or you're at the dinner table about things that just didn't go right in the organization and they never seem to go right. And I don't understand why they can't solve the problem.
Right. Those ongoing challenges, which seem so frequently to have to do with technology and new programs and new applications, as you alluded to.
Right. So technology would never be a pain point for anyone, Dr. Moore, would it?
Right. It is.
Have you tried turning on your computer and turning it off again and turning it on again?
Right. Nothing like the restart. Just
that's right. The solution to everything for IT people.
For real. Really. Or your modem. You know, so right, I just had that happen last week. I'm like, dude, I know this. You tell me this every time. I've done all of this. What's next?
Yeah.
For business speakers like you and I, we strive to be PC and not offend anyone, especially in this environment right now. People are very, very sensitive. I won't say thin-skinned, but just sensitive, hypersensitive almost. And humor can be so subjective. How do you, as you're thinking about anecdote stories or jokes, if you will, how do you determine if a joke or observation potentially crosses the line?
Well, I think the best rule here, Dr. Moore, is if you think it might cause offense, it probably will cause offense. Now, as a business speaker, I can't afford to offend my audience. I can't afford to offend the CEO or the person who brought me in. But if you're a comedian, I mean, basically, a lot of them don't worry too much about offending the audience. That's quite difficult to not offend some audience somewhere if you're a comedian. But I'm not talking about comedy. I'm talking about humor, ideas and comments that put a smile on people's face that will reinforce your serious messaging. So the last thing you want to do is to say something that will offend a few people and they're going to start talking to other people. And what will happen is that if you, thankfully I've never had any serious issues at all. But the danger is that you've got 700 people in the room you make a comment that the 689 people actually find very funny. 5 others are kind of, and then there's another 6 that kind of are upset about it. Who are the people that are going to go to the event planner about the keynote speaker? It's the 6 people that were offended.
Right.
So it gets kind of, in one sense, blown out of all proportion a lot of the time. But the event planner is hearing comments that you said something offensive. Now, thankfully, it's never happened to me in any serious situation at all. But if you're worried about, you're thinking, oh, will this upset someone? It will. So you just got to pull it back a little bit, maybe rephrase it slightly, put it in a different kind of a context or something like that. But as a business speaker, the last thing you want to do is have someone come up to your office and say, you blew it. You offended quite a number of people in the room. Right.
And if you're still uncertain, I mean, you've got a network of people. You can run it by some folks too, don't you think?
Yeah. And the challenge with that, though, Dr. Mo, is that a lot of your colleagues might have the same kind of sense of humor as you have. But then again, what I've got in my group is that I interact with a number of other professional speakers here in the Chicagoland area. And we often talk about this, and it's got a much bigger issue over the years. So we kind of do coach and guide each other and say, maybe you need to rephrase that or just be a little bit careful. Or I would not say that to that group, but it might be okay actually to say to a different group.
And that's what I meant as well. Not a colleague or peer or someone who's going to have confirmation bias, but someone, and I usually say someone who may not even know anything about the industry, but just, sometimes it can be a spouse or a friend, or like you said, you've got a group of fellow professionals. So I like that answer. And I just know that's an issue for a lot of people. So, but when it is properly executed in whatever form, how does humor contribute to making a presentation more memorable and engaging?
Well, the bottom line is that humor does make people feel better. We've got these neurotransmitters in our brains and the neurochemicals, and some of them are designed to make us feel better. And if you can put a smile on someone's face or make people laugh, you're going to have the dopamine, serotonin, etc. kicking in. And these are the little things that can make a huge difference to how people feel. And my suggestion when I'm coaching speakers on adding humor to their presentation or coaching executives to adding humor to your presentation, remember, you're not going out to be funny. You're going out to provide a message. Ways to provide a message are through stories, through empathy, and through humor. So this is only kind of a tool that you will use to emphasize and reinforce your messaging. So you don't need to have a huge amount of pieces of comedy or humor in the presentation. Right. But if you can just intersperse your presentation with the humor or an anecdote a few times in the presentation, it's going to put a smile on the audience face. It actually breaks up the rhythm as well of your presentation, because now you've got to leave them, you've got to pause for a few seconds to leave them laugh. They're taking it in. You're kind of appreciating their reaction, etc. Then you can go again with your message, which is now being reinforced by that little piece of humor. And it does help you to connect much better with your audience and to help them to remember the core message that you are providing them with.
That's a great point. And you just made me recall something. I did a TEDx talk a couple of years ago on unconscious bias and racism, which is a difficult topic. But I began with the question, I walked onto the stage and said, do I look scary to you? Now, for people who are listening, they can't see me, but I'm 5'5", 125. I am like the least scariest looking woman you've ever seen in your life. But everybody just burst into laughter just from that question. They didn't even know what I was going to talk about. But it's, to your point, it's a side dish. It's not your main entree, because that led into my topic, but it wasn't the main thing. But it was just a little simple something that they weren't expecting. And they laughed and leaned in. And from there, I was able to go into a very serious subject. But I started with just that little bit of humor. And
the interesting thing about that is that one of the ways, what humor is about, surprise and unexpected. Yes. Okay. And one of the ways that you can generate the surprise and unexpected is almost to address the most basic point. So you say you're 125 pounds, you come out and you say, do I look scary to you? It's totally unexpected what the question you might be asking. They laugh. I started off this conversation here by saying I've been working on my Chicago accent for 26 years, kind of thing. Again, it's kind of addressing the issue, but in a different way. And that's what helps to put a smile on people's face.
Right. It makes people want to hear more when we make them happy. Because I love that you referred to the neurotransmitters, also known as the body's natural opioids. We can just laugh ourselves into feeling good. Yeah. So you have an acronym, the LAUGH, LAUGH acronym. Can you elaborate on that acronym and how it helps people add humor to their presentation or conversations?
I can indeed. And actually, the way I often bring this up in my meetings, Dr. Mo, is that I really believe in the importance of interaction with your audience. So the question I often ask my audience is, if I say something, I'm looking for a 5-letter word. If I say something funny, what is it, Dr. Mo, that I hope that you will do?
Laugh.
And the answer is laugh. Okay. All right. And then I say to the group, all right, laugh. LAFF. Oh no, LAUGH. Okay. Right. No, I'll tell you something about that one. I just said that, in passing at one of my presentations. The audience laughed and I realized, hey, that's kind of a spontaneous thing that I did. I remembered. And what I did is I took the first letter of that laugh acronym. I listened to their reaction and I said, hey, Conor, you can use that again. Okay. So, and that's one of the core issues and concepts behind the laugh acronym. The L is for listen. And by that, I mean, listen to the humor or the story that made you laugh last week and capture it.
Okay.
We started off by saying you don't have to be funny. Just capture the humor around you. And if you can get into the habit of listening to what you said that put a smile on someone's face, or listen to what someone else said that put a smile on your face, capture it, and you don't know when, where, or if you will use it again. But I do believe that most of the commentary that you're involved in the last week that put a smile on your face, or you put a smile on your face, quite likely, and sometime, somewhere, become business related. And that's the first element of the LAUGH acronym. So it's listen. Now, second element of the LAUGH acronym, Dr. Mo, is A, and A is for anecdotes. And when I'm doing these presentations to corporations or associations, I'll often ask the question, I want you to think about this for a second. On average, you probably smiled or laughed about 15 to 17 times each day in the last week. That's kind of what the laughologists or jollyologists would suggest, okay? And people are surprised at that. But then I go on to say, all right, so maybe that's about 100 times in the last week you might have laughed or smiled. What was it made you laugh or smile most? Was it jokes that you heard? Or was it anecdotes, quips, and comments? And people kind of, first reaction is jokes, and then they realize, I haven't actually heard that many jokes in the last few years. It's actually anecdotes and quips and comments. So what I say to people is that listen and capture. Listen to the anecdotes, the second element of the LAUGH acronym. And the anecdotes, Dr. Mo, that are the funniest are the ones where something went wrong.
True.
Right? So that's where the U is. If you think back about a story that you heard maybe down at Starbucks or around the water cooler from friends, where you were all laughing at the story, I bet it was a story where it was not a story where everything was perfect.
Right.
Perfect is not funny. Uncomfortable anecdotes are funny. And if you think back about the stories that you told your friends that put a smile on their face, it's probably where something went slightly wrong. You can now laugh at it. It may be something that maybe it went even a little bit more than slightly wrong, but you can still laugh at it now. Ask yourself, is there some way that I can take that anecdote and bring it into my presentation? And I'll just give you a quick example of how this might work. Let's assume that I speak a lot to manufacturing organizations, safety conferences, that kind of thing. Let's assume I'm speaking to you as a person who's in manufacturing and you're interested in making sure that all of your team get home safe each day. So I'm speaking to the safety group and I say that, all right, I want you to get home safely, come in with 10 fingers and toes, leave with 10 fingers and toes. But to do that, though, you got to be aware of your surroundings. And then I said to the manufacturing or safety audience, I said, a couple of days ago, I went to collect my darling granddaughter, Maggie, from soccer practice. She's 6 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
We collected Maggie, said goodbye to Amy, our daughter. She went off and put Maggie into the back seat of the car and strapped her in. My wife sits in beside Maggie. And then, being a goofy grampy, as I'm known to Maggie, I sit in the back seat as well. And after a couple of seconds, Maggie realizes, hey, Grampy, you should be driving the car. And I said, oh no, I want to sit here in the back. And she says, Grampy, it's only a little 6-year-old redhead could do.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to get out of the car. We got a problem. We're on child lock.
Oh.
Which means we're also on Grampy lock. So Grampy cannot get out of the car. I've got to phone my daughter, who comes back 5 minutes later, and I realize that we had a little piece of really good humor here when Amy's coming towards the car and she's breaking her sides laughing at her stupid dad. Okay?
Locked himself in the car.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But here's the thing for you as a safety audience. What I'm saying to you is that was a very simple example where I wasn't paying attention to my environment and I got into marginal trouble. For you in manufacturing and safety, you've got to pay attention to your environment. And what are the equivalent of the child locks in your industry that can cause you problems if they're secured or they're not secure, whatever is the appropriate thing. I also then can say to my audience, Dr. Mo, that, all right, how many people here in this room have got kids 2 to 4 years of age, 5 years of age? Few hands go up. All right. Next time you're putting your kid into the back seat of the car, remember that I've got to be aware of the child locks that are in my industry. And for those of you who don't have kids, when you get to the traffic lights tomorrow morning, it's quite likely that there'll be a mom or a dad in the car next to you with a baby in the back seat. And that say to yourself, hey, wow, I got to remember child locks and talk to my team about the issues related to that. So what I try to do there is kind of 3 things happen there. One is I'm getting a message across to them. You got to be aware of your surroundings.
Right.
2, I'm using a humorous anecdote to help them to remember those surroundings. And the third one is I'm also trying to provide them with mental triggers so that when something happens in the next few days, i.e. they see a child in the back seat of the car, then remember the story the Irish guy told. And that's basically an example of how I take anecdotes and uncomfortable, put them together and use it then for storytelling. And it's the same with everyone in my audience and everyone listening here. They can tell stories where something went wrong. They're now laughing at it. Question is, wow, what is the message there that I could use, that I could bring to my audience that this little anecdote would reinforce? So that's a good example there. Yeah.
Sorry, but that practical application, that part too, because some people just tell the anecdote, but they don't tie it in to the message. So that is a wonderful example of employing those strategies.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, a reason why I think I get asked back by corporations and organizations, Dr. Mo, is that I do leave people with mental triggers. And I when I'm doing training now and things like adding humor to your presentation, I do use PowerPoint slides, a limited number of them, because I believe that you can overdo that. But when I'm doing regular keynotes, I don't use any slides at all. I'm just there in front of the audience and I try to paint pictures with words and leave them with mental triggers that will help them to remember what the Irish guy said. So that's one of the things I think any speaker that can create mental triggers will help them to reinforce the message and change behavior over a period of time.
Wow.
So if we continue with the laugh acronym, we've got listen, we've got anecdote, we've got uncomfortable. The next element of the laugh acronym is G.
I feel like you just flipped me off though with uncomfortable.
Whoop.
Yeah, that was uncomfortable.
All right. Okay. I know, believe it or not, I will probably take that and use it sometime when I'm doing this the next time. Okay. And I will say, I was talking to this lady on the podcast and I did this.
Like, wait, what?
Okay. All right. So can you see what I'm talking about there? The more aware of something that can make you funny or that makes people laugh, just use it. And I definitely would probably be using this when I'm talking about the laugh acronym the next time. Okay. So, all right. So we got listen, anecdote, Uncomfortable. All right.
Yes.
And G is for Google. And what I say here is I tell people, I kind of jokingly, to Google on the Bing. All right.
Okay.
Okay. And the idea here is that, let's say you're doing a presentation on leadership.
Okay.
And you want to get across certain messages on leadership. What I suggest to people is that, all right, let's Google on the Bing, on the AI, for something like humorous leadership quotes, funny leadership comments.
Mm-hmm.
What did Mark Twain say about leadership? What did Groucho Marx say about managers, leaders, companies, etc.? And it's quite likely if you just do a little bit of effort on that, you'll find one or two quotes that you can use. So the idea then is that you will actually say, you make your point, and then you can say, no, Mark Twain did say X, Y, Z about leadership, or I'm sure that doesn't apply to your organization, or something like that. So Googling on the Bing is what I say is really, really helpful. Another thing that I think is really useful is Google for funny newspaper headlines. Funny newspaper headline. And when I'm doing my presentations, I actually ask people to take out their phone.
The phone heard you talking to Google and it started. Stop. Even though I have it turned off, it's trying to answer that. So let me throw that
okay. All right.
We're getting all kind of examples of.
Yeah. But
it is been humorous.
Yeah. It is really, I love doing this when I've got an audience in front of me. Ask them to take out the phone. All right. Google funny newspaper headlines. And you just get them, the whole place starting to break up laughing. Then I say, all right, let's go through this now and see, is there any headline that you think you might be able to use in your industry? And 3 or 4 people will raise their hands and say, we could use this one when I'm talking about X, Y, Z, etc. Again, you're not creating the humor. You're just capturing the humor that is all around you.
That exists. Yeah.
So we're going to listen, anecdote, uncomfortable, Google on the Bing. And the final one is H. And H is in the laugh acronym is for he to ho, ho, ho. And the idea here, Dr. Mo, is that maybe you said something at your last presentation that put a smile on people's face or got a chuckle.
Okay.
Ask yourself, you listen to it and you capture it and you say, hey, that got a bit of a chuckle. What can I do to get, go from he to ho, ho, ho with that comment? So it might mean that you add a different word, use a slightly different phrasing, maybe turn the way or maybe put the second sentence in front of the first, something like that. Or figure out, is there some way that I can actually improve the humor in that will have the audience going from he to ho, ho, ho. So you've got the seeds of something good there. How do we kind of allow it to blossom and to flower?
Love it.
That's the laugh acronym. Even though we flipped off my hot podcast post in the middle of it.
And set off my nosy phone in the process as well. I'm like, but that all the information, the strategies that you've shared are wonderful. And I can say as a speaker as well and speaker coach, I've learned from it. And you've also reinforced some of the things that I've been doing and teaching. And so I know that this is a very effective approach to incorporating humor. And obviously it's going to lead to employee retention and engagement. And one, when you make people feel good, but 2, you make them feel appreciated. And, personal and professional development is a way to do that. It's not just a pat on the back, but investing in your employees. All of these can lead to a better, less toxic work environment and a better culture. So thank you so much for sharing those. Before we part, I want to
just reinforce one point you made. I really do believe the critical thing in building teamwork is appreciating your people.
Yes.
Having them go home knowing that, hey, my effort is being appreciated. And when you start doing that on a consistent basis, I think it makes it much easier to take people to task when things aren't going right, because they know they're being treated fairly and their ongoing work is appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll wrap up on a personal note. This has been so much fun. I wish we had another half hour to go, but on this regard, like me and so many other people, you are a cancer survivor, a 2-time cancer survivor. And a lot of people, when they go through that ordeal, it is not fun mentally, emotionally, physically. It is one of the greatest challenges I've had in my life. And I've been through some really tough stuff. And I would imagine you would agree. But it either makes people bitter or better. And it's obviously, Conor, made you even better. How have you maintained your sense of humor after going through that challenge?
Well, I think a lot of it is just my general personality. I am lucky to be a positive person. And there has been some research done by a number of psychologists that our genes make up a lot of how we actually react. So 50% of how we, of just our moods are determined genetically, kind of thing. There's another percentage determined by our circumstances and what you actually do. And I speak a lot about what you actually do to try and improve your circumstances and how you feel about yourself. So I'm generally very, very positive. I'm blessed in that. But when things go wrong, though, I also do know there are certain things I can do to make me feel better. And I'll give you one quick example on this. I speak a lot to job seekers. It's not an income stream. It's just a passion of mine to help people in job search. And what I do say to them, Dr. Moore, is that before you go into the interview, you've got to be able to walk into that interview 12 foot tall and bulletproof. Or if you're on a Zoom call, you got to kind of make sure you're positive and feeling good about yourself. So you've got to do some things to make yourself feel better. And what I tell job seekers to do before the interview or before the Zoom call is to get onto the Googler and Google for pandas.
Pandas.
She's looking blank at me.
Pandas, like the black and white little bear? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, right. So why do I say that? Because when people see pandas, they smile and they laugh.
True.
Right?
True.
So what I'm saying to people is that find something that will make you smile and laugh. So if it isn't pandas, when I've made this comment to job seekers, a few of them have come back to me and said, Conor, it really does work. I know it does work. People have said to me, goat yoga is another one that makes people smile.
I was going to say the singing goats, the screaming goats. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, all right, okay. Yeah, but see, when you're mentioning those, you're smiling. There's a big smile on your face.
Yeah.
And that's what I say, that when you're going through challenges, you can do certain things to make yourself feel better. It doesn't create panaceas all of the time, but I do believe that if you appreciate the good times and also appreciate there's going to be tough times, but when the tough times come, what can I do to make me feel better? And that is one of the things I've been lucky. I've got a good positive personality, but I also do work on it from when things aren't going particularly well.
Great. Humor therapy has been employed a long time. I don't know if people saw that movie about Patch Adams, but that's really what that was about. And there is a great body of research on that. So thank you for sharing that. And I do appreciate your humor. And despite everything you've been through, how you're so willing to share and help others. Before we go, please tell listeners how to connect with you online, book you for workshops and trainings and whatever else you have to offer. I know you got a lot going on.
Well, first of all, I do appreciate your time and efforts, and I wish you the very best on your own journey going forward, business-wise and health-wise. The brand is Irishman Speaks. That's all one word. And my website is Irishman Speaks. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter as Irishman Speaks as well. And I do programs on Zoom, in person, United States, Canada, and Europe on a number of different topics. Adding humor to your presentation is one, but it's also about programs to improve people, performance, and productivity with a smile.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you again, Connor. And thank you, listeners, for your time and support of this woman-owned indie podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and share for more like this and to help me grow. We want to reach more people with this educational information and entertainment. Until next time, be safe and be well. Thank you. And wasn't that a great program? Oh, love that episode. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Learn more about me on my website, drmoanderson.com. That's MOE. You can read book excerpts, watch videos, learn about my services that I offer, and book me for a speaking engagement. I'd love to talk with your group, and I'd love to work with you. So until the next time, review, renew, and renew. Thank you.